It is of no concern. Soon the rebellion will be crushed and young Skywalker will be one of us. Here's your look at the new Hot Toys Star Wars Return of the Jedi Emperor Palpatine Deluxe version. For those that can be easily swayed to the dark side can find Emperor Palpatine right now over at alteregocomics.com. The product code for this deluxe version of Emperor is MMS 468. To get this review underway, we're going to first measure off how tall Emperor Palpatine stands, and taking the tape measure and putting it actually just past his head, because I want to measure it to the top of his hood. The cloak hood makes the figure stand at 11.3 inches in height, which in centimeters, let me go ahead and do that right now for you, 28.7 centimeters tall is Emperor Palpatine here. For the standard release, if you manage to pick up the standard version of Emperor Palpatine, you'll get yourself a display stand, a rectangular display stand, which has the supporting cradle there in which the figure will sit atop of, or rather stand atop of. On the front placard, you've got Star Wars Emperor Palpatine. It would have been actually nice if they had put in Return of the Jedi Emperor Palpatine, but I guess they want to keep it just to the series in which the characters are pulled from. Speaking of pulling from, there's a segue for you. You can take the adjustable neck off, put that to the side, because actually the plate comes in two parts. This is just a defaulted plate that we've seen with other Star Wars released 6-scale figures from Hot Toys, but then they also give you this overlay, sort of about the thickness of an index card, and that just sits over top of the display base like this. I guess really you could use either or. There's a certain level of depth and screen accuracy to using like this card rather than the one that's underneath. And then just to keep that, like I said, in place, you're just going to take, once again, the adjustable neck, snap that in place. It is going to shift around still a little bit for you, but at the very least, you got yourself a neat looking display stand and a much smaller way to display the Emperor. Or if you'd like to go all out, you can get yourself the deluxe version. Now, obviously, the deluxe version of Emperor is going to be a little bit more expensive, but what you are going to be getting as a trade-off to that is his Emperor throne, which looks fantastic. It does have some swiveling to it. Basically, there's only a little bit of assembly that's required. You're going to take the under part, the spinning base part, and that's just going to attach into the bottom area here. That's the only really reason why this spins the way it does. It's just really, there's no mechanisms inside. It's just the way that it's been attached in place. Now, what's really neat about this this actual chair, it does have light up options. It's a little harder to get to that while you have the base to that, so I'm just going to take that right off. Underneath is a battery compartment. Didn't actually come with a screwdriver, so I just used one of the screwdrivers I have from my own collection, because I collect screwdrivers. When you take this plate off, you're immediately treated to an empty battery casing. There's nothing inside. You have to install 2 AAA batteries, which I so happen to have a fresh set of AAA batteries just ready for this review. And then there's the on and off switch. So what does that on and off switch do? We switch this on, and you have several console lights that light up rather brightly via LEDs. On the side, you've got little buttons and dials, these little light up options here. You can see, again, project a very bright yellow light. There is a switch here, but the switch isn't functional. It's just been sculpted in place like that. There's also a little light up yellow button on the side, as well as in here. And again, you've got really the only time that you really get a bit of a red. Well, there's a little bit of red in there as well, but you've also got one of the red buttons that light up here as well, and a few little switches and little dials and stuff like that, none of which, again, are functional, but at the very least you get yourself some nice light up options. Speaking of light up options, doing my best not to blind the viewing audience here, but he does have a overhead light. This does a really great job of projecting the light down onto the Emperor's head. It does really, again, look quite nice. This is made of plastic. Although, as you could probably guess it, based solely on its size, there's a fair bit of weight to it, but it's not die cast, which is one good thing about it. Keeping it obviously plastic keeps, obviously, the cost down, but you still have a display piece to display the Emperor if you don't want to have him standing up. To get the Emperor into his chair, we're just going to bend the legs, just like that. And then, of course, we want to bend the knees. Everybody, I'm sure, are experts when it comes to sitting in chairs. You're basically just going to do the exact same thing you would do as an individual, a taller, bigger, larger individual, but you're just going to do that with the Emperor. Now, the thing with the Emperor, though, is you sort of have to tuck him underneath the chair, because this overhang does stick a little bit further down, as you can see right there. And then once that's in place, you just want to adjust the Emperor's legs. I like to bring his robe around so that you're not seeing the gray underrobe. Just kind of adjust his sleeves. And now you've got yourself Emperor Palpatine sitting in his chair. As you can probably guess it as well, being that it does also swivel, you can move the Emperor back and forth in his chair. This is a great display piece if you want to recreate the end battle scene between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Darth Vader, you could easily just poise behind or to the very side of Emperor's chair, and then you could have Luke Skywalker standing in the front. Or you could have Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker standing in front of the presence of the Emperor. Again, it does look really good. Based on how much space you have afforded, you may be able to fit this guy in a DTOLF and still have the necessary space to have a couple of 6-scale figures on either side, or like I said, you could have Luke Skywalker standing in the front here as well. As we continue to quickly look at the chair, you can see some nice airbrushing that's been added to the inner cushioned area. Now this is just plastic, same as the rest of the chair is plastic, but they've done a great job of just kind of doing a subtle airbrushing of a darker coloring of this purple on the interior there. Like I said, most of the chair, it's finished all the way around as well. All the chairs sort of in a slightly off black color. For some reason the camera doesn't want to, there we go, doesn't want to focus in on that. But it's not quite a solid black. It almost seems like there's a slight purplish tint to it. But it is a really, again, nice looking specimen. I especially like for the fact that it does light up. That gives you a little extra oomph to it. It's actually one of the only parts that light up to the Emperor. He does also have the dark side electricity, the force electricity that's going to come out from his fingertips, but that part is not a light up option. It's really only solely the chair here. I was actually going to get right into having a look at the figure next, but reminding myself of the throne chair, I also wanted to point out the one other exclusive if you manage to pick yourself up the deluxe version. The deluxe version also includes Luke Skywalker's lightsaber hilt. Of course, no lightsaber beam or blade has been projected out from this, but a nice little accompanying piece if you want to have it displayed right to the very side of Emperor's throne chair. Again, it's really nicely colored. I'm certain that we've already got this hilt included with the Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker. It does have some nice coloring to it. It is in a chrome color. You can see some of the more recessed areas, or the areas right underneath the coils, are painted in black. It's got some gold there as well, and the gold located up at the top. There is the little loop ringlet, which then clip onto his belt. But again, a nice little accompanying piece as well. This work quite well, too, if you have a Luke Skywalker. Not that you really would have a Luke Skywalker without his included lightsaber, but you've got yourself an extra as well. For the Emperor's outfit, he does have the long black robe, which, as you can see on the outside, has some really nice texturing to it. It's also a magnet, it seems, for hair and other things as well. Sort of has the texturing of almost like a basketball, just much smaller. I do like that there is a little bit of texture, a little bit something for your eyes to feast their eyes on. But the interior of the robe, let me just flip it around here, is almost like a smooth, feels almost like a nylon material underneath that. If you flip that also over, underneath all of this is also his dark gray colored tunic, which is almost about the same sort of material as like a velour. It's got a textured feel to it, and if you just move that aside, this is all stuff that you would normally not see on the Emperor, but for this review, we'll just move everything out of the way. So we're going to move the gray tunic out of the way. Less impressive, I'm sure to say. You've got a pair of black slacks underneath, which again have a very soft feel to it. Very, very like a soft cotton pant. And then underneath that, you've got yourself a pair of almost brownish, purplish brownish, that's a combination, almost a slightly purple tinted brown pair of boots. The boots almost kind of come across as cowboy boots, which is again something you wouldn't normally have seen on the Emperor. At the very least, you probably would only see the tips of his shoes. And there's the undersides of what his boots do look like. You've got Lucasfilm Ltd., and on the other side, you've got 2018 Hot Toys Ltd. One thing that the robe also allows you to do is there's an untabbed point here where you can detach the robe from itself. What it is basically it's just a pin on one side, and there's a hole on the other. I can't see personally why I would want to ever detach this, especially for the fact that it is very hard to get it back in place. You have to get the tab, the little pin there, right underneath the hood, which is fastened already to the rest of his cloak. Just snap that in place. And again, you've got the little clasp finished and sealed off. Some small details you wouldn't normally have seen, even if you probably likely saw the movie. You would never see this close up of the little fastener clasp. That's what it looks like right there. Sort of indentations. I'm not sure if it actually is supposed to be any sort of writing or scripture, but it's got a little bit of detailing there nonetheless. Which would then lead to a really fantastic head sculpt we can have a look at right now. Currently, it's got the robe over top of it, the cloaked hood over top of it. But one thing that's good is that you can pull the hood back and get a fully finished Palpatine all the way around. Now, this is not something you would normally have seen in both Empire or Return of the Jedi. In fact, it was only really in the prequels that we've got a backstory and really what Senator Palpatine would eventually, well, what he would start looking like and leading eventually to Darth Sidious. And then leading then to that would be the Emperor Palpatine. Again, he's got a great looking head sculpt. Very pale in his complexion. You can see it's made use of some nice peach-colored, almost like a peach-colored beige, mixed with a very dark, unsettling, almost lifeless gray that's been added in there as well. It's a little bit more exaggerated at the very end of Episode 3, where you can see exaggerations in which the discoloration around his eyes. Here it's a little bit more subtle. I love the fact that they've given him a very sinister-looking smirk on his face. And it gives you also a sense of depth as well, being that the fact that the side corners, the corners of his mouth, sit a little further back, almost as if you could see the rest of the mouth if the mouth was opened up. The ears seem a little bit more warmer in color, get a little bit more of the more natural flesh tone, but you can see the scarring and just the visible wear to his face as a result of the Force fight that he had with Mace Windu. Love the wrinkling, though, on here. He's got very light, fared gray hair there. As you can see, has been combed back. Again, this is not something you would normally have seen on this figure. I'm wondering if actually they will make use of the same head sculpt if we get down the road, maybe a sinister version of Senator Palpatine, or we maybe get ourselves a Darth Sidious. The Darth Sidious would probably look very similar to this. One thing I have noticed, though, with the hood, if I spin the figure around, the hood is tabbed to the back. It's actually threaded to the back. I suppose you could detach this if you wanted to, but there is a little bit of resistance when you want to pull the hood forward. I keep wanting to pull it forward a little bit more than what I'm doing, or what it ends up being, just because I like to have the hood a little bit more stretched over the head of Palpatine, where you don't see as much of his face. This, luckily, is also wireframed as well, so if you wanted to bend the hood, there's a little bit more give to it. You can shape it to the desired look that you want. I probably would likely more point the top there and then just try to relax it on the edges there, kind of forming a slightly more looser kind of shape of a spade. It's got an awesome side profile to it. Again, utilizing some of that texturing to the fabric. I love the fact that it's got this texturing to it, and it's not just smooth fabric that they decided to dress the figure with. Speaking, though, of his lifeless skin, I want to also show you his hands. Now, I didn't realize he was as malnourished in the forearm. I mean, this is obviously something that's been deliberately sculpted, because as you move further up on the sleeve, you start seeing a normal, unpainted arm underneath that. So I didn't realize his arms were as thin as they were. I guess he doesn't really move around as much as he does in the original prequels. Well, the follow-up prequels. His hands do look a little off, just because his hands are so big and his wrists and forearms are so narrow. You can't help but look at it and feel like his hands, as a result of it, look way too big. A lot of this, of course, can be fixed by simply just bringing the sleeve down and bringing the cloak sleeve also over top of that. So you're really only going to see this part of the hand. Now, there's several different variations of the hands. We're going to look at those all in a second. I just so happened to start this review with sort of like the kind of the force point. I don't know if he's actually using the force here, but sort of has just like a very sinister point that he's got pointing over maybe at Luke Skywalker. And then this one right here, in theory, actually, this hand would be a suitable hand if you want to put, for example, the lightsaber hilt inside. You want this, don't you? So that's one of the options that you can display the figure with. Certainly for Emperor Palpatine, there's a whole lot more that you can do with the figure, just solely on the hands that come included with them, as well as the interchangeable hands that we'll look at in a second. The other accessories that come included with Palpatine is his cane. I love the sheen that they've put the cane in. It almost looks like it would have been made from lava, like just taken a shard of like lava rock and just kind of chiseled it out to make this very crude yet effective looking cane. Again, I love the fact that the light bounces off of it. You can see really all the different shapes and just irregularities that make up the cane's shape itself. It does look like crude, but again, very effective. Certainly see him walking a little bit with the cane. Probably a good look that you would want to display the figure. I likely, based on the fact of picking up the deluxe version, will likely lean a little bit more towards displaying him with the chair myself. But this is certainly one entertaining idea that you could think of as well. We'll just quickly talk about these. He also comes with a series of interchangeable pegs, 2 to actually be exact. This is great for if you are changing out the figure's hands, and say, for example, you get the hands. I've always had this happen. You take the hands out, the peg still is rooted inside. You got a couple of extra pegs, I should say. I sort of like to dub these lazy pegs. These are for the pegs if somebody has taken the hand out, like I said, and that the pegs are still stuck in the hand, you just can't get them out. You can fall back to a couple of extras just in case. These are also good too. I mean, obviously the main reason I would think that Hot Toys would include pegs like this is so if you lose any pegs or if any of them happen to break, you've got a couple of extras there to work from. Okay, so let's talk about Emperor Palpatine's additional hands. Now, he's got a hand that is sort of kind of cupped over. I mean, this would be ideal for also holding the cane, for example. Cane would just kind of fit over top like this, and then the hand would sit over top of the handle portion. At one point, I actually displayed the figure with the finger pointing out and then kind of wielding, kind of holding the cane as well. There's an option there for you as well. Once again, great paint job. Sometimes very much overlooked, but the amount of care that they even put in just like the hands. You can see the discoloration in the hands, the fingernails there, a little bit of a dirtier fingernail, and you've got the very noticeable veins happening there on the tops. He does also have another finger pointing hand, sort of a variation to the one that we got here. It so happens also to be on the same side as the figure as well, on this side that is. And then one fun thing that he also comes included with as well is a pair of flat hands. Now, of course, these flat hands would just be a pair of relaxed hands if you want to have the figure just kind of standing as is, or you can get a little bit more exciting, and you can also incorporate the very, very cool lightning effects, the force lightning effects, and let me show you how those work. Before I show you how they work, let me show you how they look. What we have is these electricities, these traveling paths of electricity that are coming out from the Emperor's fingertips. You'll see on one side they are of a more clearer variety, and as they work their way through this rooted vein system, at the very end, or as it travels its way, it gets a little bit more of a purplish color. Now, despite for the fact it is a little bit more of a longer accessory, it seems to actually keep its balance, I guess, if you will. It doesn't seem to want to droop too much when you have it attached to the Emperor's fingertips. Then you also have this one here as well. It's not quite the same one. I like that there is a difference between the two. But once again, these ones start clear on the one side, and as they work their way through, they become a little bit more purple in color. Now, according to the instructions, there is a specific way in which you want to attach these to his hands. The instructions, let me just actually grab you the instructions right now. This is what comes included with, of course, the figure. I would always say, very highly recommend looking through the manual before you start getting into playing around with the figure. As you can see, though, the lightning effects are specific to these hands. Well, this hand has the more branched out lightning. This one here has the more narrowed branching. So basically what it is you're going to take this one, for example, and we're going to pair it to this hand here. And when you are putting it into the fingers, you're really just, see these little loops right here? This one loops up and then this one loops up. These are sort of your guides. You can run, as you can see right there, one over top of one finger, and then the electricity sort of goes underneath the middle finger and then goes up again over, I guess that would be the ring finger. And that's one of them. Then we're going to do the exact same thing with this hand. Now this one's a little harder to see, but it also has that little loop right there. So when you are putting it into this hand, this one's again a little trickier to kind of figure out. But it's actually going to, you could do it at actually two different places. You could put it right here, but I find it's a little bit more supportive if you put it right here. So see how this little loop here, and then there's a secondary loop that's almost parallel to it. If you run the fingers, the pointer finger, and I guess the middle finger into that, and then this just sort of fits underneath, there we go, fits underneath the fingers like this, and the fingers themselves will kind of support the electricity, as you can see right there. They're not the most secure fit at all. Sort of had the same problem when we were looking at the Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch was also a bit of a problem when it came to her holding properly the electricity, but it does stay there. Jostling it, banging it, will probably have these result in falling off of the fingers, but as you can see, it does hold on the fingers, and if anything, the fingers sort of hold the electricity upright. So this is really what it looks like when you get the electricity, the force lightning effects added to his fingers. It's a really effective feat. Probably you'll see right off the bat, one big limitation to adding these to the figure is that you're automatically now asking a lot more space when you want to be displaying the figure. This is something that you probably would want to be displaying more so on a shelf rather than displaying it in a detolf, just because a cabinet space, I don't even think a cabinet space would be able to clear to figure right to the very end of the electricity. But as you can see, it's a really neat looking effect. I don't know longevity, though, how long this will hold. I don't feel like I'm worried so much about this part where it's sitting on his fingers, but I worry about this being just draping the way that it is. I mean, this is draping right now for, I mean, you could look at your wristwatch and start timing this, but I think several months, several weeks, even several days, you might start seeing these starting to droop just because you're asking a whole lot of weight to support. Well, there's basically weight that's pushing these down the moment you attach them to his fingers. So again, it looks good, but I don't know long term how long something like this is going to last on the figure. I suppose one of the workarounds to it, if you had maybe like a clear stand or maybe even like fishing line, you could attach it to the ends of these just to kind of keep them upright and then permanently keep them that way. But still, it's a really neat looking effect. Something that you could entertain the idea of displaying the figure with. This would be perfect as well if you happen to have Darth Vader or if you happen to have Luke Skywalker here. And you could have the Emperor, of course, in the final scenes, the final few scenes, in which he is fighting then against Luke Skywalker, and then off to, of course, Darth Vader afterwards. Alright, so get a gander at his articulation. I'll just probably move the hood back a little bit for this. Emperor Palpatine's articulation is his head rotates all the way around. Now, it is actually sitting on a dumbbell ball joint, so we've discussed that before in previous reviews. It's basically like a rod of plastic with a ball joint on one end and a ball joint on the other. I like to consider that like a dumbbell ball joint. Basically, what that entails is it allows the figure, despite for the fact that the sculpting, the head is molded right to the neck. Best way they could have gone about doing this, because had they not, the sculpting here, the fantastic sculpting in his neck would have certainly been lost by having a new head on top of a neck, two separate pieces. It would have looked jarring. But despite for the fact that it doesn't have a head and then a neck, it does actually get a full range of motion via, again, that dumbbell ball joint. The head rotates all the way around, and it hinges up and down, and left to right. The Emperor also has, might I also add a little bit of padding here in his torso. Even if you flip the figure around, you can feel there's a bit of a soft cushioning padding that's been added to the back. Just, I'm guessing, to probably fill out the figure so it looks like when the robe is just draping on a regular 6-scale body, it would probably not sit as full as this, which would probably explain why it's got the padding there on the torso. But the upper torso does have a crunch. It has a waist swivel. The arms move out, you can move them forward, you can move them back, you can swivel at the bicep, you can bend, double hinge on the elbow, and then of course whatever hand you decide to attach to the socket area of Emperor, you can move the hand up and down, you can also rotate them all the way around. Luckily also for the way that the figure is designed, he doesn't have any limitations when it comes to his leg movement. You can move the legs forward, you can move them back, you can move them out, you can swivel at the top cut of the thigh, double hinge on the knee. And then also, it does look a little silly, I know, when you are lifting up the tunic, but the feet, the cowboy boots, as you can see, are made up of fabric, so it doesn't limit when you want to move the hinge of the foot up and down. You can also ankle rock them also back and forth. This, again, is not something that you're going to see too frequently, because most of the time you're probably either going to have the Emperor in one of two different poses. You're either going to have him upright, possibly like this, and possibly, of course, making use of his cane, which is a good option there as well. Or, if you've picked up the deluxe version, you'll likely want to display the Emperor sitting in his throne chair. Right off the bat, I want to thank the folks over at Hot Toys for giving us a worthy candidate of a deluxe versus a standard release figure. Oftentimes, and I'm guilty of this as well, I'll pick up a deluxe version or a limited release figure because it has extra accessories. And what do those extra accessories usually work out to be? Maybe something that was in a movie for a few seconds. Sort of one of those blink if you miss it sort of scenes, but those accessories are included, or other things that, in all honesty, I just probably will never end up displaying with the figure anyways. Here is a good example, though, because the deluxe version gives you something that, if you have the space and you have the necessary means and finances available, pick up the throne room chair, because then you can display the Emperor with maybe some royal guards on either side. You could have the Emperor looking at Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, and it's a really neat looking setup. But it's also not a detractor for people that just can't afford a deluxe version. So if they had packaged the Emperor with the throne chair and there was really no way around it, many collectors would likely pass on this pickup, because really they would find themselves never wanting to display the Emperor anyways with his throne chair, and certainly couldn't justify paying the extra money to pick up a figure with an accessory they never really would want to display him with anyways. So that's the benefit of this particular figure, and why I think it's one of the best candidates for a deluxe version versus a standard release. The standard release, as we've discussed in this review, basically will come with everything we looked at, minus the throne chair, and minus Luke Skywalker's lightsaber hilt, which I so happen to have here on the side of Emperor's hand, here in Final Looks. Either way, if you guys are interested in picking these ones up, now just to give you kind of a breakdown of how deluxe version price versus standard release price, if you swing on over to Alter Ego Comics and you want to pick up this one for yourself, the deluxe version of Emperor Palpatine, including his throne chair, will be $313.99. Compare that to the standard release, which is $219.99. It's just shy of being about $100 difference. So really, you can decide as a collector, do I want to get the standard release of Emperor Palpatine, where I can have him standing, I can have him with his cane, for example, and I can use the electricity coming out from his fingertips, or do I want to spend a little bit extra and get him with the throne chair, with basically all still the options available? If I want to display him without the throne chair, those are also available as well. So again, you have the option of either getting the standard release or the deluxe release. I want to pick up the deluxe release though, just to show you guys the difference between the two, and likelihood, I'll probably display Emperor exactly the way you're currently seeing him in Final Looks. Now, if you guys are interested in picking this one up for yourself, Alter Ego Comics currently has this one in stock, both the standard release and the deluxe release. So you guys can decide which version you'd rather have in your collection. Alter Ego Comics is one of the best online sites if you guys are interested in picking up 6-scale figures, because one of the things that they do offer is free double boxing. What does that actually translate to? Double boxing basically means is if you've ever ordered a 6-scale figure, you know it comes inside of a brown mailer box, but at times, and I've had this happen to myself as well, that outer mailer box has gotten wet, has gotten damaged, that I always then worry about the inner contents also getting damaged. Alter Ego Comics does offer the free double boxing. So basically what that is they're taking the mailer box, they're putting it inside of a larger brown mailing box, and they also pack some material in there as well. So it guarantees you that the box is going to arrive just as in the same condition as, say, if you were be able to pick it up and you go into a store and pick it up. So they do offer the double boxing. They also offer free shipping on most of their 6-scale figures. So, for example, if you are picking up Emperor Palpatine for yourself and want to save a little bit on shipping, they do offer free shipping on most of their 6-scale figures, and their customer service is unmatched. Versus some of the other 6-scale places that I've picked up my 6-scale figures from, Alter Ego Comics always have very friendly, very approachable customer service, and again, unmatched by some of the other companies out there as well. So, some good news, my friends, if you guys are interested in picking up Emperor Palpatine for yourself, the folks over at Alter Ego Comics have also offered a coupon code. You can use the coupon code SPOT15, which let me spell that out for you, SPOT15, SPOT15, and you can take $15 off your minimum purchase of $150. It's one coupon, one use per household, but if you are interested in picking up the Emperor for yourself, and certainly want to save any bit of money where you can, $15 off a $150 order, which is basically going to be this figure and then some. $15 is not bad at all off of your $150 price point. Today we were having a look at the new Hot Toys. This was the Return of the Jedi Deluxe Emperor Palpatine. Now this again was the deluxe version that came included with his throne chair and a lot of other cool goodies as well. If you guys want to also go back and have a look at some of my other Hot Toys reviews, there's a playlist for you. And make sure as well, like I said, swing on over to Alter Ego Comics. They're always updating their library on a regular basis. So if you're looking to get pre-orders, swing on over to Alter Ego Comics today. As always, guys, thanks for watching as you always do. Make sure you hit that little subscribe button down below. And also, while you're at it, make sure you hit that bell notification. More videos will be coming your way. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.